Hi everyone. So I'm just making the brief video explaining in detail the fourth class online discussion, which will take the form of a review activity to help us get prepared for the in-class review activity on Sunday. So it's a form of synthesis and review, and it's a more structured way to do an activity, and it's rather game-like, so it's rather fun. Games are fun, partly because there's rules. And we can connect that to the reading this week about gaming and also the earlier stuff we looked at about gaming and discovery learning. But it's fun to have rules and play with rules. So learning through play. So there are rules in games, and these are the basic rules of this game. We will be in groups of 3, and each person plays 3 posts. Each post focuses on a single reading from this course to discuss. That excludes the one-page article defining educational technology and also the review by James Scott Johnston about Dewey's metaphors. Other than that, any of the readings that I have posted on the wiki for this course are up for grabs and available to be a focus of a post. Within each group, each post focuses on a different article. So at the end, each group will have 9 posts, each one talking about a different article. Each post makes connections to 2 other posts already made in the group, except for the first 2 posts where that's not possible. But it can be any 2 posts. It doesn't have to be sequential. So if I play the 7th post, I can link to any 2 posts earlier on. Each post needs to make these connections to these 2 other posts. And at the end of the post, it needs to highlight what those links are very briefly, succinctly. That's part of the game. So it's clear, the links, because we can talk about connections, but having to specify it at the end is more game-like and makes it easier for each of us to interpret each post. Each post is ideally 200 to 250 words maximum, but you can go up to 300, yeah, maximum 300. So the posts are short, and the focus it's focused, and this should help us make kind of develop a kind of review the core articles, but it will also help us see links and make interconnections between articles. From that kind of thinking and approach, themes emerge, and our thoughts are built to go further. It's a form of pushing our thinking a little bit further, but through a game. And it's also fun because it's more individual in a way, and yet it's still collaborative in another way. So to go through a little more about just the specifics about how you play, each person in their group of 3, we will have this little weird beginning where the first person can't post to link to anyone, and the second person can only link to the first post. The third person will have to link to the first and second posts. But after that, then we see the freedom of being able to link to any 2, and it won't be like a sequential dialogue. You don't have to take turns, but at the beginning, nobody can play the first 2 posts in any group. So, because that's just not fun. No game. But after that, it doesn't matter if you post near the end. It gives more freedom to people to post when they're available, when they feel able. It is a little complicated. It does demand some team communication. That's because each post has to be in a different article. And the other complication is that the game needs to gain traction. At the beginning, it does matter whether 2 people are playing at the same time, because the first person isn't linking to anyone. If 2 people in the same group are doing that, one of them is going to have to fix their move to link. So you need some communication at the beginning. But after that, people can just choose whichever 2 posts they want. They don't have to wait for other people. They don't have to worry about if they are finishing earlier, because they're connecting to what's there. So it doesn't have the same demand on your time, but it does demand team communication. So the way to fix that, or to help address that, in each group I'll make a form, and then there'll be 2 threads. One of those threads is for the official posts, and one of those threads is where you can communicate about the task to sort those things out. So before you start working on a post, you lay dibs in the forum stating which article you will focus on. You do this when you're ready to post within 24 hours. You don't do that at the beginning and say, these are the ones I'm doing, because that's not going to help us understand who's playing when, and it doesn't give people a chance to actually choose articles. So that's a whole other issue, is if people just say, I'm playing these 3 at some point, and lay claim to a set of 3, other people don't get to negotiate that. So this way addresses those problems, because when you're ready to play, you get to choose one of the articles, and there's lots of articles, and so it solves many problems just playing this way. Some people might want to negotiate with their group members and sort out which ones they're doing earlier, but then you have to figure out a way to do that in the forum that's fair, that gives everyone a chance to have some article they loved, or else just go with the when you're ready to post, you get to choose your article. People need to keep track of what articles have been played, though, because otherwise they won't actually be able to keep track, and they might accidentally play the same article. So you have to check, like, what articles have been played before you choose your article. So the whole dibs thing in the thread really helps solve all the weird problems that could arise in a situation like this. And other than which articles you're playing, once there are 3 posts, then after that, people really don't need to worry about it, except insofar as they need to know that they're not writing an article that someone else is working on. So that's the complications, but I hope people understand it's pretty straightforward if you follow the thread and just tell people what you're doing, and we shouldn't run into too many problems. But I don't want people to just say these are my 3 early on, because it doesn't help people all have a choice. I think this is a really interesting activity to do right now. One reason I want to do this instead of the online discussions in Moodle is I would have cut those down to a smaller number, because it's a lot to read and it's hard to keep track. Also, people are really busy this week and we need to review, and I find that a more structured activity that allows me to more clearly define what each person is expected to do, creating a pedagogical environment where you're actually studying the way I want you to, it just feels like it's a better fit for what we're doing right now. It's also really interesting because we've been discussing these issues and the pros and cons of different kinds of activities. And in small groups, there can be problems because of being way too dependent on the other people to participate. So small discussion groups can be problematic for that reason. And I've had situations where the activity simply isn't working because there's not 3 people playing. But actually in this context, 2 people could get through. It wouldn't be quite as much fun, but they could actually finish it off if the 3rd person didn't do the activity. And so you're less dependent, and yet it still has the benefit that you know exactly how many messages you're going to be reading. Each person will write 3, and each person will read 6. That's really defined, and that is a decrease in pressure, I feel, from the more amorphous online discussions where one feels, and the pressure to keep up is very high level, and it can only be sustained so long, so I think this is very interesting for us to play this game, and it'll be fun, and I hope people find it straightforward to understand the rules. That's just the hard part, at first, but once you understand the rules, I think you'll see it's easier. So I've created not easier, it's challenging. It's a review activity, it's synthesizing, but I think it's just less confusing in many ways. But we'll see what you feel like. I'm always fascinated, and I think this will be fun, especially with such an educated group who is considering these very issues. I've made a little place in Moodle, groups for 4th class discussion, where you can sign up if you want, or I will divide you into groups if people don't sign up. But I've left a little area if you just want me to put you in a group, you can add your name there. But I'll make forms for the groups as they become existent. If you have a couple people, you could put those names and I'll be able to add someone in. So I'm almost at my 10 minutes, which I get